So from that appointment, what support did you get following on from that?
We got a referral to the incontinence team. I've spoken to them twice on the phone, but physically we haven't met yet. I think age seems to come into that.
Okay.
Where we live, from my understanding, they can't help us until he's 5.
Okay. Yeah.
And even then, I don't really know how they help. If it's nappies wise, I think you get like 3 or 4 nappies a day, and that's it. We obviously had a we was already then on speech and language's radar. So following on from that appointment, they then basically came into our lives. They did assessments on Grayson for the obviously the autism process, but then obviously to see how they could support him, and in Grayson's case that turned out to be PECS, which is working really well. I mean, he's at phase 4. It took a very, very long time in the beginning for him to get it. I did sort of start to think it was never going to happen, but it did, and I am very grateful to his previous nursery for what, although they only saw him for 3 hours a week, they really helped with the PECS, because in the beginning for phase 1 and 2 you need 2 adults. You need someone to guide, and it's really hard to do it on your own because you've got to be 2 people. So you're like, he's giving you a card here and you're guiding his hand with your it's like trying to be 2 people around a table. It is hard, and I don't know if that delayed things, because obviously I was at home and Dad was at work. Obviously when Scarlett was about, she tended to be the person he gave the card to, which was helpful, but it took a very, very long time. And it's very bizarre with the NHS speech and language. So they give you so many sessions. So I think it's 4 sessions. It may have been 6 when we first started out. And you have these sessions, and then you have to wait so many months, and then they reassess them to decide whether they stay on their books or if you're discharged. Now, obviously with Grayson, we have been with them since obviously the whole process, but we've seen 3 different speech and language people because they leave. I don't know if that's an indication of things, but and with the first lady, they didn't even tell me she'd left. It was me ringing, because we'd had a couple of sessions and we were still due to have sessions, and then there was nothing. No, nothing. Just kept leaving voicemails and texting this number with no responses. Wow. And when you rang the hub number, someone would get back to and eventually this woman rang and she was like, no, she's left. And I was like, well, I gathered that because I got no responses. It would be nice if you could tell us a bit quicker than how long it's taken. So obviously the next lady comes in, and, because she doesn't know Grayson, you have to repeat that, meeting. And so we met her in the August, because I couldn't get the appointment she offered before then. It just didn't work for us at the time. And we met her, and at the time she thought PECS wasn't working. So prior to that appointment, she thought about, and there was possibly another option. But then she met him and she did some work with him, and actually, yes, she agreed PECS was working and we should continue. So it was like, okay then. So this was in the beginning of August. So at the time I said, we'd arranged a few things. She was going to send me a few things. A month passed. Hadn't heard from her, texted her a couple of times. Turned out she'd left and all. Within she left. So obviously then the third one come in, and she has been good. I mean, she does respond to my texts and she rings if I've got a question, and, so far so good. Fingers crossed she don't leave yet.
Is that a weekly?
No, so it's literally, you get 4 sessions and then you wait. I think it's like 12 weeks. You have to wait,
One session, then 12.
No. So you get the 4 sessions.
Right.
However, it's arranged between you and the
Okay.
therapist, and then you have to wait 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks to be reassessed to decide, are you going to get more sessions or are you going to be discharged from services? So like with Grayson, obviously it's PECS. He doesn't do the other things that they like the second lady tried a few things and he just didn't respond. So obviously in our case, this time round with the third lady, she's been to our home once and she's been to school once. We're going in when we go back together, and then there'll be one more session left, and then we'll wait. And I don't know if that changes with Grayson's understand. I don't really know. It's not very sort of, you don't get a leaflet saying, you know, this is how speech. I have no idea. I ask other parents. I say, what?
I think it changes depending on
where you live.
Yeah. Honestly.
You know, I do say to other parents, you know, do you do speech and language? What do you do in speech and language? You know, what happens in your sessions? And it's not very consistent. I think I thought, you know, from my experience in Germany, for example, some of the children I worked with, they obviously had sessions with speech and language or occupational therapy, but it was very much, you know, you knew what to expect. You knew when you were going to these sessions, this is what was going to happen and this is how long it was going to go for, and, you know, that was a weekly thing. Whereas here, it was like, you know, what happens? I mean, OT, we got 2 referrals from that appointment. So one was for 2 different occupational therapists. So the first one was supposed to be for sensory side of things, and the second one was for everyday stuff. So the first one contacted me. She had a phone call conversation with me. Following that, she sent me some leaflets and she discharged us. Now, Grayson is very sensory orientated. I think he's what they would class as a sensory seeker from his behaviours. So to be told by someone who is an OT and supposed to be sensory stuff that they don't do anything for sensory issues, it's like, well, what? Really? And I was really like shocked because it took weeks.
She was a sensory OT and she
apparently, well, she was an OT that worked for the NHS and that was like, I was just shocked. I was really like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to say really, because I'd had a conversation with her. I told all these struggles we were having, and then I got an email with some leaflets that, I tell you what annoyed me the most about it. They made me watch these bloody videos, right? They sent me a link to watch some videos that I had to watch. But what they didn't explain is once I watched them, I had to contact them, which I obviously didn't because I didn't realise. So then they tried to discharge us at that point because I hadn't contacted them within the 2 or 3, however many weeks it was. So I'd obviously moaned, and then I got put back on their services. So I watched these videos. I think there was about 6 of them. Well, they're like common sense videos. And I did say that to them because it was almost like being at work, going for a training day, So these videos, and that's what it was. They're NHS people, and they're all sitting in a room, and you've got someone delivering, like, you know, this workshop with, what do they call them? The big boards, with the slides and all that. And a lot of it was common sense. So, like, if you've got a child that struggles with transitions, they talk about using storyboards and now and next. Now that's wonderful if you've got a child that understands that. At that point in time, Grayson hadn't even started PECS. So it means nothing to him if I'm holding a board saying, now we're going to do this and then we're going to do this. It means nothing at all. So when a lot of these videos were very much things like storyboards and now and next boards, or like there was one, and I said to one of the gentlemen I spoke to, I said, it says on there, or one of these, because they test you. That's what it is. When you have watched these videos and you contact them, they ask you these questions to know if you've watched the videos, because they can't go any further. Wow. So he asked me something, and I said to him, these videos talk about obviously like transitions. And I said, the thing is, I said, a lot of the stuff they're suggesting, we've tried that. Most parents would try. Any parent of any child, whether they've got a disability or not, would try these things because it's common sense. Common sense. And I said, I don't understand why you are making me watch these videos for me to get help. Like, I'm asking you for help because we're struggling with certain aspects. So, like, if we go down school run, for example, we have to go a particular way on the school run. If you deviate from that way, he gets absolutely distressed and he'll cry and cry and cry and cry until you get back on the way. Now that's all fair and good in normal, like most of the time you can go the same way. Yeah. You can't do if there's a flood in the road, or the path is being dug up. Yeah. What do you do then? So you deviate from the normal route and all hell breaks loose. And it's like, how do you make him understand? Yeah. How do you, what should I do? And at the time it was like, I don't really know, because this is all quite new to me as a parent, and I don't understand why. I didn't really understand why he was getting upset. I didn't understand how to prepare him, because if you don't know what their understanding is anyway, certainly around language, these are what I thought these people were there to help me, to help me find a way that works for, well, obviously not.
But they sent you videos.
So they sent me videos, and after I'd obviously confirmed that I'd watched the videos, they sent me like these sheets.
Because you've got nothing better to do.
With stuff that really was basically repeating the videos, and then they discharged us. So I was absolutely fuming.
Oh my God, so hang on, they discharged you anyway?
Yeah, they discharged us because they don't do sensory stuff, and maybe in a few years they could help us. So obviously the other sensory guy, I think he has to cover a really big area, because a lot of parents I know are under him, and they live in different areas across Essex. So in our area he works on a Tuesday. He's a very nice person, but he was very open and honest and said Grayson's understanding makes it very hard for him to do particular work with him. So obviously he has given me things to try, trying to work with certain areas that we do find difficult, but it isn't, we've seen him once in clinic. I've had one phone call with him. He's due to go into nursery to see if there's something there he can support with, but it is a very, very, it's slow. Yeah. We are in the process of, so I have got an appointment booked with a private OT who do sensory assessments, because there are aspects of Grayson's behaviour I don't understand. I don't know why he does it or what he's getting from that. Yeah. But there are certain things that are dangerous. And, you read things online and people say not to stop them doing certain stimming, but at the same time it's like, well, at what point do you intervene or try to direct away from certain behaviours? Because, like I said, Grayson's a climber.
I remember being on the phone once.
Climbed out the window.
He's climbing out the window. I was like, go get him.
And it wasn't even a, Simone, the windowsill was like there, and he'd managed to get up onto that windowsill, and obviously because at the time I didn't have the window locked, it just opened. It just went at, Now, at the time, we laughed. I was more in shock, and then afterwards I cried, because it's like, oh gosh, he's doing stuff. Well, what do I do now? In the middle of summer, we had all our windows closed. It's hot. We couldn't even have fans on because he's trying to stick his fingers, because he likes the blades turning around, and he's like all like that, and pushing, and it's like, okay, so how do we, we know he likes climbing. He obviously climbs for a reason, but what can we substitute? What can we provide him that will give him the same feeling and the same, whatever it is he's looking for, but in a safer way? Yeah. Like I'd said to one person, that one of the clinics I found, I said, I'm really considering buying a trampoline and putting it in my living room. And he was like, well, you could, but then he probably hurt his head if he's jumping up and down, and you haven't got high ceilings. I was like, oh, but it's like, what do we, and there's so much stuff out there, isn't there? There's so much stuff you could buy, and they're not all cheap, are they? Let's be honest. As soon as something's got sen in front of it, the price triples.
Yeah,
so
true.
What ones do I buy?
Yeah.
So the idea is that we basically pay for this sensory assessment. They will observe him in whatever setting they need to do that in, and after that they will make recommendations, and not just for us, but it could be used in nursery if there is something called a sensory diet. If that's one of the recommendations, they will basically do that, and then we can do activities with him so that he gets all that input that he's looking for, and hopefully we will better understand and be able to preempt certain situations, because at the moment it's like you know 1 minute he's doing something and the next minute you've got no clue, but there are sometimes I feel like there's telltale signs that he does something and I think, oh, I know that look, and then I could quickly stop certain situations or redirect.
It's just not. It's not an easy journey, is it?
No,
I tell you,
no.
You always have to take. You always got to be a few steps ahead, as you say. Then you kind of adjust. It reminds me of when both my children were babies. When you kind of get used to something and then they completely change it. And I just think naturally, and I really feel for like the SEN parents just starting off on this journey, because I had that same expectation that I'll go to a GP, I'll go to a professional, and they would be able to guide me.
Yeah.
And we just get a leaflet, and it's almost like on your way and all the best. And it can be so isolating.
I think absolutely. And the thing is, sometimes, I ring family, especially if it's been a tough day or a really tough week, and I will sort of say to them, about situations that we've encountered, and Jill would say to me, these are what you've got to ask the professionals, that you need to ask them. And I said, but I have, and they've got no answers for me. And it's very, I post a lot in social media groups. I ask other parents for advice, especially, and it's frightening because you're asking complete strangers, and in some of these groups there's thousands of parents, and I'm openly asking, this situation happened and I don't even know how to deal with it, or Grayson gets extremely upset in the car. He loves being in the car, loves going on car journeys, but if the car stops, it's horrendous. And the thing is, if you're going everyday life, you've got to go to certain places, and it's like, how do we prepare him? We've started introducing Now and Next. It works apparently all right in nursery. At home it just gets chucked across, gets lobbed.
And that's the thing, they may react differently depending on their environment.
But it does. It's like we get in the car and at the moment life is very sort of, certain places we avoid completely. If Cole can go on his own, then Cole goes on his own. If I can nip somewhere on my own, then I go on my own. But it's very much sort of, we're not doing things as a family, like I miss the days of, no kid likes going shopping, let's be honest. Scarlett wasn't the best when she was younger, but you could walk around Romford and you could, go in shops and have some lunch and just have a few hours together as a family. Grayson sees Asda's or Boots. He hates Boots. He sees the car park of the town where we park, because we always park there. He sees that car park and he starts kicking the back of my seat, screaming. And you're there, you're sort of like driving in, and I do, like we're driving nearer to the car, and he knows, and he's like that. Like, and Cole says, like, he's doing the look because he's twigged we're going somewhere that I don't like. And obviously there's Scarlett in the back with our little storyboard going, look, we're going to go here, and then at the end, look, we're going to go McDonald's, and he's not interested. And he's doing his moany. He does this moany sound when we know he's not happy, and my whole body just tenses because I know it's coming. And obviously you get in. And then that's it, we get tears. And everyone's looking at that point, you open the car, he's wailing in the back of the car, Scarlett's triggered by that noise, the baby starts crying, and at that point I'm like, should we just go home?
Yeah.
I don't want to go now, because I know that's just the beginning of it, and then once he's sort of on the move, he's happy, and we're outside, he's happy. Then we get nearer to a shop. And it's like, oh yeah, right, who's going to stand outside with him? And it's hard because sometimes I want Cole to come into a shop so I can ask him for his opinion. Yeah. Well, most of the time he's outside with the kids and I'm on the video call. Yeah. And it must look so bizarre, we video call more in shops than we do talking to each. But it is how life is. And events, we get invited to things. And it just, doesn't happen, Simone. It doesn't happen.
I know you alluded to it earlier, but who or what does your support network look like?
So obviously in our immediate household, I've got Cole. Although he works 12-hour shifts up to, he does like 4 or 5 days a week. He comes home and he does his fair share. Like he does bedtimes, he helps out with bath time because I struggle because of my own health. I struggle with certain aspects, and obviously by the end of the day I'm so tired. Then obviously and Scarlett is she does help a lot with her brother because she can't really avoid him.
But they do say to the siblings.
She does. I think and she and as sad as that is, because obviously I've got my own health issues, and she already had to help me. With certain aspects, especially when I went for a really bad time with my physical health. We tried to sort of protect her, and obviously with Grayson there isn't really much, there's only so much you can protect other children from. So she does do an incredible amount, and it does give us as parents a great deal of guilt, because obviously her life is very much affected by Grayson. Certain things, like I say, you go out and you want to do stuff, it's either which parent's going to go and do that, or how long is that activity going to last? Is he going to cope? Obviously outside of our home, we have my dad. I think out of sort of like parents wise, it's my dad, obviously his partner Nikki. They are currently the only ones that take Grayson for a few hours, or if there's an emergency, they're the ones, and it's hard, and I know it's hard. It is hard because it's really weird because I was having this conversation yesterday. Grayson is compliant, and lots of people say to me that's a good thing. It's easier when they're compliant. I personally think it's quite scary how compliant he can be, and how vulnerable that makes him, because Grayson will literally just walk off with a complete stranger if you've got something he wants to look at, or if you say let's go here, he will go. But when he's difficult, not many people are able to settle him. And obviously my dad is somebody, that Grayson knows, that Grayson clearly, cares about and trusts. But they don't have him overnight, because I know at the end of the day how I feel. So obviously if they can take Grayson and Scarlett, that's a massive help to me. All 3 of them together. We've tried it once. We tried it once where we left all 3 children there, and when I came back, they'd sectioned parts of the house off, and like my dad's partner went, I've never experienced anything like it. So, you know.
She got children?
Yeah, she's had 2 children. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Violet is a different kettle of fish. So, obviously, yeah. So, I'm very conscious about how often I ask for certain things. And I tend to sort of save that for emergency. So, if I've got certain appointments I really need to get to, then I'll ask if they can help out. Obviously, then we have Jill, so Nanny Bubbles. Again, you know, it's hard because if we ask her for help, it tends to be that Cole can go to her house, but Cole is there. Because obviously, you know, they're all in their 60s, you know, they're all have raised their children and they've all got their grandchildren, but we know I can't expect them. I wouldn't put them in that. I feel bad asking them to, because obviously I chose to have 3 children. That's my choice and Cole's choice, and it, you know, it's not their, just because they're grandparents doesn't mean that, you know, I've got this entitlement that they must come and help me, you know. And obviously I'm aware of how that can be, you know. It is full on, and their homes are not set up like ours. You know, I've got extra locks on doors and gates, and, you know, we've got things in the garden. We've got swing set in the garden if need. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, we know, you know, I've got like a bubble tube in the living room. If he gets a bit overwhelmed, that goes on. Or if he needs to go in his bedroom for a little while, he can safely, you know, I can put him in there, shut the gate, leave his door open and know, you know, I can listen out and he's going to settle. Obviously, their houses are not set up like that. You know, my dad's got glass everywhere. It's like, you know, it's glass everywhere. You know, Jill's house it's all open, so, you know, and it's hard, and obviously it's tiring, and we do tend to not ask as much, but obviously when that is needed, yes, they are. Obviously Cole's dad, I've never asked him. I think maybe once we asked, and Grayson was quite distressed. I asked him if he could sit with him in the car while I took the baby in for an appointment, and he just screamed the whole time. I could hear him coming out the exit, and I knew it was my son. You know when you know your children, and he was like that from the moment I'd left to the moment I came back. And obviously Billy, you know, didn't know how to settle him, and that's the thing, you know. Some children you can distract them quite quickly. With Grayson, if you can't, he just cries, and he gets himself in such a state, you know, he'll throw up because he's crying that much.
As soon as you came back, did he settle?
He settled straight away, yeah. And this is what we've had recently in the nursery. They rang to say he was distressed and they couldn't calm him down, and could I come and pick him up? And he's only been there for an hour and a half, and I got there and literally they opened the door. I said, you have to give me, you know, you have to give me a bit of time because got to sort the baby out and get out of the house. And I got there and I could hear him. I literally had walked into reception, and they've got like this door, and I could hear him on the other side of the door crying. And it's that cry. So I always say Grayson has different cries, but that cry is the sad cry. And it really does, like, breaks my heart hearing, you know, like all your children have that sad cry, and that's Grayson. As soon as they opened the door, he stopped crying. Came over, touched my face, gave me a hug, and then went, bye.
Did he?
And
was
he
that when you were first settling him?
No, this was like literally the Monday before they broke up. And he was fine. He was absolutely fine. And you know, you think, and they kept saying to me, you know, he's got a snotty nose. I thought he's had a snotty nose for the last week. You know, it's that time of the year, and you know, and we had sort of like not a brilliant night, but we always sort of know how Grayson is going to be. You know sort of what day it's going to be, and I genuinely didn't think that was going to be a bad day. But, you know, we got home and he was fine, and he ate and, you know, cuddled with me, and then he cried going back to pick up his sister. And then I thought, well, did something happen? You know, did something happen? There must be, you know, I don't really, and I don't know to this day, because he can't tell me. You know, and we sort of just put it down to maybe he was feeling a bit under the weather and he just wanted his mum. I don't really know, because he kept giving the mum card, and and that's why they rang and said, you know, he's really upset, and you know, we tried this, we tried that. In that time between April and July, 3 nurseries by us closed. And the thing is, that meant then all those parents were looking for other places, and I suppose, you know, for when you compare us to the next family, their children didn't have needs, they're going to get the place, whereas Grayson did have additional needs. We're not going to get the place. I don't know if it's that they've not come across a lot of children like Grayson. I find communication really poor, which is frustrating for me as a parent, because Grayson doesn't talk, doesn't come out and say to me, oh, today we did this.